places, you never know what you're going to find. 21 years ago, the spring of 1994, there was a visitor from Ottawa who was walking at low tide just in front of the fort, and he found parts of the skeleton of a British soldier we thought had been buried here the winter of 1710-1711. Being a doctor, the gentleman recognized a human thigh bone sticking out in the mud, and he came to tell us. The next day, our archaeologists came in. Between high and low tide, here we have about a 28, 29-foot difference, or about 9 meters. She unearthed the whole remains of this soldier. He was a bit shorter than I am. He was about 5'6". He had his arms folded over his chest. There were buttons on his uniform in the chest cavity. He still had his shoe on his right foot. But all of his uniform and flesh had kind of rotted into a black gauze caked onto his bones. Now, reason I say we thought he was from 1710, we have the letters of a young private from Boston who was supposed to here that winter. He was 17 years old, writing home to his mother saying he was afraid he wouldn't see her again. He described the fact that soldiers were dying here that winter, not from war, but the conditions inside the fort. Cold, illness, lack of provisions. And he says, at night, under the cover of darkness, we bury the dead along the waterfront so that the French do not see the weakness of our garrison. Because here they buried him up here in the graveyard, while Acadians and Mi'kmaq walking along the street, who were seeing all these fresh graves, realized that we were not the ones dying, alerted the French military, would have attacked the fort. So that winter, out of 400 troops posted here, 76 died, buried out there. The young boy, his name was Hananiah Parker. His letter made it home to his mother in Boston. It's in the Massachusetts State Archives. He did not. He died here in April 1711, lies buried out there. Now, I will tell you that just 2 summers later, summer of 1996, we got a report from the Conservation Lab in Ottawa after they had cleaned the buttons. And we realized there must have been at least 77 soldiers out there. Because on the buttons, a faint number 57 appeared once they were cleaned. 1710, there were no numbers on buttons, just plain pewter. So he could not be one of those fellows. The 57th was actually here in 1784, just after the American War of Independence. No battles here that year, so we said, why was he buried out there? One possible explanation. If a soldier was a criminal, they were often not buried in the consecrated grounds of the graveyard. They were buried apart. And the 57th had quite a reputation. The reverend of the time from New York City who was here, Reverend Jacob Bailey, described them as a bunch of hooligans. So, chances are, it would have been one of their members, for some misdeed, was buried out there. Now, unfortunately, we did not know that the previous summer, in 1995, when we reburied the skeleton right up here in the graveyard, giving him full military honors with an 18th century enactment group, and we had 600 people show up for the burial. So folks, so hopefully the ghosts of the good soldiers won't haunt us tonight as we start venturing in here.